Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Kalachandji, Radha Kalachandji, Radha Kalachandji, Shri Radhe. Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadra Maiya. Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita, Jayo Gauranita. Gauranita ki bolo Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Pramanande, Hari Hari Bol. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. हरिनाम संकीर्तन महायज्ञ की जय। निताई गौर परमानंदे। हरि हरि बोल।
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So very happy to be amongst all of you this evening. I'm seeing a couple of new faces as well. So, and I was told that so many families have shifted from different places of late. So it's a very good period for Dallas as of now. I also heard some of them are planning to move from Dallas to other places. So anyways, today we have gathered here on the occasion of Harshal Prabhu and Palak Mataji's DTs, Radha Govind Chandra and Nitai Navdeep Chandra's 8th anniversary celebrations. So, when was that date? 24th October or so? 25th October. So they decided to celebrate. Also Harshal Prabhu's father and mother are also here. So it's a joyous occasion for all of us to come here for some divine purpose. I would also like to congratulate them, specifically as a couple, being responsible family members, very sincerely continuing doing their little sadhana and sevas which they have been doing for last 8 years. So if we see from the Bhagavatam's point of view that the eternal work of the eternal duty of the soul is to engage in the service of Krishna, so 8 years is nothing to clap for. But considering from where we are in such a challenging time, where we are overwhelmingly bombarded and inclined to follow the direction of how hardcore corporations, materialistic people have designed the world. Considering that onslaught which is happening, it's a very big thing. It's a big thing that many of you, since so many years, are continuing practicing the process of spirituality. Many of you may also be questioning that why am I doing this? Nothing significant also coming out of it. And many of you may also have tried to give it up. It's been too much of association regularly, let me just go back. And many of you must have also realized that also doesn't really work. So even if there is not a full experience of the joy of spirituality, it's still not easy to give it up. So that means there is something which is there, which is still keeping us in this whole process. It is very, very difficult for people who are inclined to derive joy only out of the senses to understand how exactly you all are nourished on Friday evenings, if not in the pub or the bars. It's very difficult. Try to convince your own office people who may be very religiously going every Monday to some temple, every Wednesday to do some ritual, but try to convince them on this. It's very difficult. So it is very essential that we develop a sense of life where we also experience pleasures which are not limited to the senses. Unless we experience those kind of pleasures, we will be trapped again and again by the creation of self ideas or somebody else's ideas. That pleasure means only senses. So for example, you may go to temple, you may read Bhagavatam and all of that, and then you say, okay, this much is enough, now let's do something real joyful. So if we have this idea that when it comes to real joy, I need to go to real places like whatever they are. But then I must have some religiosity and therefore I will do some Bhagavad study or temple or association. As long as this idea is there, it's a trap. That means we truly have not experienced the pleasures of something which is beyond the senses. One very highly scholarly Vedantist of India, recently I was having a very good discussion with him. I do take some guidance on some technical words which come in scriptures from him. Try to understand what are the mysterious aspects which are involved in this construction of words. As you know, the language of Sanskrit is not just simply something which is meant for communication. It has two things. One is the communication and one is the deeper sense of what that thing means. So, it was very interesting also to know from him that he told, why don't you try to find out that what is there in the Maha Mantra that so many people are attracted to it. Now this is a very significant question by him, considering that they are highly knowledgeable people who have spent 30-40 years dedicated to spiritual knowledge. And it is hardcore spiritual knowledge. Many of us, we speak, we guide others, our family members, or somebody is conducting Bhakti Vriksha program. Or let's say I am also speaking. But we haven't invested 20-30 years of serious hours in understanding Shastra per se. So when such a person says, what is there in the Maha Mantra that worldwide people are getting attracted? For example, the way the Kirtan was going, I was feeling we should have just a Kirtan session. Right? It was so sweet. And I was honestly feeling that it's just going to be kind of an obstruction for next 30-40 minutes. Or maybe more. I'll try to make it less. that is the joy. People are inclined. And not only that, Prabhupada used to, when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the guru of Prabhupada, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the father of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when they came up with this idea to spread the holy names beyond the town of Navadvip, they were faced with many challenges. And one of the biggest challenges was the scholarly people, where the scholarly people who knew too much of Shastra, and they would just trip these newcomers, new entrants, the new preachers who are coming with mrudangs and kartals and just singing. And Prabhupada had to struggle explaining, and therefore you see in many of the purports he speaks this concept of Mayavad, or sometimes he bashes impersonalist philosophers and so on. Obviously because they were trying to invalidate him for a very long time, and therefore for 2 generations, because Bhakti Vinod Thakur faced that problem. That problem was faced even before that. When you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, we know these famous pastimes of Nityanand and Haridas Thakur. On the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they started going preaching. Jare dekho, tare kaho Krishna Upadesh. Go and tell everybody about Krishna. So Nityanand and Haridas Thakur said, what should we tell? So Mahaprabhu said, just tell that Krishna is everything. Krishna is your father, Krishna is your mother, so chant Hare Krishna. That's a simple instruction. And they literally took it so objectively and they started preaching. Even when they started preaching, they first went to civilized homes, requesting that, and they took the robes of sannyasis and requesting that we are come with this message that the Lord is the creator of this universe. Why don't you chant? Why don't you do this? So many of the caste Brahmins, they felt that these were such simple people, their minds have been polluted by this Nimai Pandit, who is a pseudo scholar, who calls himself as a Pandit, but he does not have that Panditai, means that complex construction of sentences and grammars and too much elucidation of shlokas and all that. And he has just come up with this vague idea, kahan se laya pata nahi. Mrudang, Kartal and Hare and Krishna Kirtan. So many of them would pity them that Hare, such nice good people. Saffron robe dal diya. And then talking about Krishna, they should be practical. They should learn Shastra also first properly. What do they know? So this problem was not a recent problem. It's been coming since Mahaprabhu's time. And when it came, and therefore you see sometimes the Vaishnava Acharyas, they sometimes go very strong on this. In such a time and age when it is difficult for Indians to understand this, how difficult it would be to convince Western people. Many of you have started appreciating what Prabhupada frequently calls as Krishna consciousness only after you came to the West. And you say, oh, these ISKCON people are doing good job. You certified them somehow. It was also your own cultural need to align to some set of Hindu values. And a bigger pressure that what will our kids gain? We have nothing to offer. Obviously, if you had something to offer, you would not be so desperate. So in that process, everything began. But for the Western people, how difficult it must be to preach. When you see objectively, great people of India have inspired such wonderful revolutions. And such stories have been going on since thousands of years, recorded in history. Of course, what Mahaprabhu did, what Prabhupada did is still not a very big historical thing, because history is something which gets created over a period of time. And definitely this also will get created, because in my own personal experience, now I have seen last 5 years, it was so surprising to me. Even impersonalist organizations who are so much strongly against the concept of form of God, after their satsang programs, they have Hare Krishna Kirtans. This applies to so many spiritual organizations in India, in whose programs I just went to see how they conduct their approach in this chaotic atmosphere. So they'll speak everything. They end with Hare Krishna Kirtan, which they never followed most of their life. And I was just confronted with that request just a couple of months ago. What is there that attracts people to this Kirtan, the concept of Hare Krishna? And it is still a mystery. Probably it's also good that some mysteries just remain unanswered. Because so that your quest always keeps going on and on. It is the nature of human mind that once something is answered, we lose its value. Okay, now I got it. That way. And many of these preachers, when they came here, they were confronted with very big fundamental question. How should I talk to these people? One who has no concept of Atma or Atma Gyan and understanding that there could be an existence beyond the body. How do you exactly communicate to them? It is so difficult. Approximately 2000 years ago, when Alexander was on his quest to conquer the world. Now Alexander was some people say that he was a disciple of Aristotle. You heard about him, right? At least he was a follower, if not a disciple. He would take him as a mentor on many issues. So Aristotle comes from his parampara, the Greek parampara. Aristotle's guru was Plato. Plato's guru was Socrates. And Socrates was one of the person who came with this original idea of, at least in the Greek civilization, in the European civilization first time, that life has something beyond more than the body. And the soul, the purpose of life is to give meaning, ultimate meaning to your existence. He was killed only for this. People got attracted to him, so many youth, and therefore the Romans, they thought that this is too much, this is going against our idea of how we have created God. This person is bringing consciousness that God cannot be what you people, your bunch of people who have come and set up big corporations to rule the world. Those days corporations were working differently. But it was the aristocracy which had come together and created the concept of what is religion. So Socrates challenged all of that. And for that he was put to death. If someday a movie comes on the trial of Socrates, I'm sure that would be a very super hit movie. It is something which all of you must see. There is no movie such, I don't think so. But it's very interesting what happens in the court scene, because it is discussion about consciousness only. Morality, ethics and consciousness. And when you read that, you will feel that this was like as if something coming from the Upanishads. He was killed for that. But that idea went to Plato. Imagine, the spiritual idea is something people are willing to die for. That means there is something mysterious about it, right? Plato took it forward, Aristotle took it forward. And when Alexander went, he asked his guru that I am going towards the east. Do you have any instructions? He said, the land of India. Now Aristotle said, I have heard from my preceptors that this land of India where you are going to go, that time it was not known as India. But he said that particular place where you are going to go, you will find lot of wealth, lot of treasures. But even more than that, you will find people with tremendous amount of wisdom. If you can bring one such person to Greece, we will be liberated. So this is in records. These are not my nationalistic ideas for glorifying. This is in records. So that was in his mind. Obviously, for somebody who is already conquering every place, he will have to conquer something special, right? Now that's a new thing to conquer. So he came here. And then he started his conquest. Eventually, he came across someone who said that here there is some saint here. The Indian records tell that the name of that sage who Alexander met was Dandi Swami. But in the Greek records, he is known as Dandimas, the Greek kind of Dandamis. That's how they write it. So anyways, that's not so important. But he came to know. So he told, he was Alexander, like any other king, he wanted that his name should be in history. So he told, he was carrying a historian with him, who was maintaining records of all the conquests he was doing. Only all the conquests what he was doing. Not the mistakes or losses. But he was also honest in some ways, Alexander. So anyways, so that historian's name was Onesicritus. So he told that you go and fetch this sage for me. So this person came and told that the son of Zeus, means God basically, who is ruling this world, has asked you to come to him. And if you agree to this, he will give you gold enough that could be, that is equivalent to your weight. But if you deny, he will kill you. So this person, he said, if he is the son of Zeus, so am I, and I have nothing to conquer, you go get lost. So he was shocked. He said, are you not afraid of your life? He said, don't waste my time. So this person goes to Alexander and says that this was the message which was given. So Alexander thinks that yes, this is something, this is a person worthy to be conquered because nobody is staying in forest. So he comes to this person and asks him. So at that time, that Dandamis or Dandi Swami, he's sleeping on the floor on dry leaves and probably taking vitamin D. According to the records, he was bathing in the sun. So suddenly Alexander comes and he tells him to wake up. So he says, just get aside, don't disturb the sun falling on my body. So Alexander gets disturbed and he says, do you know who I am? So Dandi Swami says, do you know who you are? See, this is a very shocking question. Now, this can come only by those people who are living the life of Atma Tattva. Somebody who is conditioned to bodily stage of life, because he was least concerned that now Alexander will come and what argument, I'll have to give a smart answer. Many of us, we hear such answers also by Prabhupada. I'll give you some very interesting conversation which Prabhupada had in America in this. And you will be wondering that how come these people come out with this perspective? As soon as Alexander heard this, that do you know who you are? He was shocked. He came to know, yes, this is the person whom I need to take to Greece. He said, I want you to come to Greece. You have to follow my orders. Otherwise, I will kill you. So, Dandamis said, just like children, they come together on a shore. With the sand, they create palaces. With the sand, they break the palaces, and so on. So for some time, it is a sand for them. Sometimes it is not sand for them. So you can probably destroy my body, but you will never be able to capture me or anything for that matter. And in fact, there was a dead skin of an animal which was next to him. He said, okay, let's do just one thing. If you can just straighten out the skin, then we will talk. show your prowess by straightening out the skin. So he started straightening out, and when he would straighten one side, the other side would fold. Because that's the nature of the skin. It does not, once it gets dry, it curls. So he says that this is going to be the nature of your conquest. Where you rule, it will be straight. The moment you walk out from there, you will lose everything. And that's what happened. Within 3 years, he actually died. He started losing everything and he died. Anyways, so that's where the famous things of Alexander come, that he said his last wishes, that I should be carried out in public with my hands and legs open. Let people see that I conquered the world, but I went empty-handed. Let my body be carried by physicians so that people know that no amount of doctor and physician help can save the soul, and so on. Interestingly, these kind of stories have not made up into the Indian stories. We have learned about Alexander's conquest, but not about this great story, which has been recorded in the Greek books, but not in the Indian histories. Isn't it so sad? But Indian sages and Indian wisdom, all this concept of philosophy has amused people all across the globe since so many, many years. And those who were enriched with this spiritual concept of Atma, those who understood it well, they did not have to study books to come out with such fresh perspectives. It would just reveal in them. When Srila Prabhupada came to United States, his entry was in Boston, and then he started preaching in New York, Manhattan. A really crazy place. Even today, the energy is very baffling. And when you have to preach to the Westerners, actually forget that. Midwest is little bit better. You have cultured Westerners. Preach to them and see. Forget that. Preach to your own coconuts. Brown from outside, white from inside. Western thinking. I'm not saying that that is wrong, but saying try to convince them about these things. It is so difficult. Ones whose mind is totally drenched with materialism, they cannot even make sense of how things are going. So at that time, there was this Joe Pine show. Just as many shows we have. And that show, the host of that show was famous to insult the guests who were on the show. And that was the nature of that show. Just make a mockery. So they invited Prabhupada that please come and explain and share about your Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada was thinking that because it was the order of Guru and he was carrying this order of Lord Chaitanya in his heart, that yare dekhe tare ko ho Krishna upadesh. So he thought that by hook or crook, if I get any opportunity to spread this word, I will go. So many of Prabhupada's disciples, they said that Prabhupada, please don't go. This was in Southern California. They said, you please don't go for this show because they insult people and they'll make a mockery of you. You don't know how smart these people are. So Prabhupada said, whatever it is, at least we'll get a good coverage on national television. And I will speak about Krishna a few sentences. At least the Southern Californians will hear Krishna, Krishna sometime. And Prabhupada went. So this host began his boxing match. He started saying, Swamiji, why are you here? We have wealth. We have religious institutions. We don't need any religious guidance from India. We are healthy, wealthy, everything is there. You come from a land where the death rate is so high. So Prabhupada said, the death rate is 100% everywhere. So that was the first blow this person received. He was thinking that. So Prabhupada said, death rate is 100% everywhere. So he paused for a while and he says, doesn't Hinduism speak about the flat earth There's a controversy now also that earth is flat or earth is circular. How many of you believe earth is flat? No one. But it's a valid controversy. There are big physicists, even today, they are posting YouTube videos that earth is not flat. That shows that this issue has been too seriously taken by people coming from one of the most educated countries of the world. It is not uneducated countries who have come out with this theory. Okay? So, he was asked, so your Vedic literature say earth is flat? Prabhupada said no. It does not say earth is flat. In fact, it is said about Bhugol, which is circular, and not just that, the universe is also circular in shape. But what is flat is relatively said that about our solar system or planetary system. This is relatively flat. Because those planets are not moving in all weird circular directions. So when you put it in a plane, it is relatively flat compared to that entire universe. So this person, so Prabhupada thought that he asked a very sincere question. So Prabhupada gave a sincere answer. But then, means Prabhupada fell for his trap. So this person said, oh, so therefore you mean that earth is flat? He said, no, it's not earth. It is the earthly plane. We say, Bhuvar, Swar, Mahar, Janastapyas. We say many planetary systems. So the system may have whatever thickness, but relatively it is flat. It's not moving like that way. So he said, he tried to explain, this person said, no, that means you are saying it's flat. You are saying it's flat. So he was trying to put words in Prabhupada's mouth. So Prabhupada got upset. He said, look, wherever I walk, earth is flat. So this interviewer again got shocked that this man is tough. Though he looked at his assistant and he said, now you take over, because getting two failures back to back, it will be a loss of his show, right? Viewership. So he called for his assistant. Now the assistant was a beautiful lady dressed up in short skirts. She came. Without any etiquette, she immediately asked, okay, why do you shave your head? So Prabhupada gave a return question. He said, why do you shave your legs? Now that was too embarrassing for a woman to receive this. So there was a long silence. Then Prabhupada said, it is better to have a cool head and warm legs. After this, specifically after this, nobody interrupted him for 15 minutes and he kept speaking whole Krishna conscious philosophy. So it is interesting. Now imagine all his disciples and followers were saying this is a very dangerous show. People get embarrassed. Now Prabhupada also did not know, because nobody knew what spiritual or such kind of questions can come. How do they come with these answers? Like Dandi Swami. How could you come with, do you know yourself? It just blows off your entire intelligence. The disciples were very happy. They received Prabhupada in the temple. The first thing Prabhupada told, which is very important for us to understand. He said, look, I can say whatever I can because I am an old man. You all should not speak like this. So he had that wisdom also. He had the wisdom to challenge people. He had the wisdom to face a very difficult opponent. And he also had the wisdom to synthesize maturity. This is very, very important for all of us to understand. The knowledge of Atma Tattva never makes someone fanatic. Those who have not understood spiritual knowledge or the science of soul, and they are just superimposing these things artificially on themselves, they will become fanatic in their approach. Because they have not truly synthesized these things with experience. They are just repeating regurgitated knowledge or just some ritualistic statements of scriptures. Quoting some shlokas. Okay, when I have this problem, what I should do? Srimad Bhagavatam, this shloka says this. That's not how knowledge is transmitted. That's not how knowledge is received. That's not how knowledge is applied. That's not how knowledge is even experienced. So therefore, scriptures give a great amount of emphasis on trying to understand these things repeatedly. From the first chapter till the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you will see shlokas which are coming where Krishna is telling Arjun about the Atma. Or in the Bhagavatam from the first canto till 12th canto, at least till 11th canto, where Krishna speaks to Uddhav. And so he speaks about how Grihasthas should deal, how Brahmacharis should deal, how Sannyasis should deal. Everywhere there are shlokas about Atma, Atma, Atma. And sometimes when we come across these words of Atma, we feel, okay, now we have understood, Prabhu, why don't you go ahead? We know these basics already. We feel like that. But our lives do not take that course that way. It's very, very difficult to follow that path. Someone who is engaged in the body and who is addicted to take experiences only at the level of senses, again I am repeating, will never ever understand these things. Therefore, it is of utmost importance for all of us to start seeking pleasures from that which is not definable. By doing something, somehow start getting those experiences. Some of those experiences we do get in kirtans, right? It's not definable, but we do get that pleasure. And the proof is that impersonalists are also now doing that. The proof is that on YouTube you see so many groups of different sampradayas and panths. They are all getting into the kirtan thing. So this is some experience which you cannot define. Means you can experience, but you cannot put exactly in words. The closest people come, they say is, it gives some peace, it gives some joy. But actually think over it. Is it just peace and joy? It's something beyond that. It is something beyond that. Golokera prema dhana harinama sankirtana. This word comes, and we do sing in bhajans very often, ritualistically. But if you take it in the literal sense, someone like an acharya will not just say things just emotionally, right? It's not emotional rantings. These bhajans are not like that. Whenever you sing now, make every statement superlative. That's not how it is. It is something you have to also see from a technical side. If this is literal and this is real, then what is it? Correct? So now I'll come to what I wanted to discuss today. So it's a very nice verse. Suptasya vishaya loko dhyayato va manoratha nanatmakatvat vifalastatha even though we are discussing this quite late, I will end in time. So don't worry. 8:30. How much time we have? Yeah, see, I was telling, already the request has come, we'll do more kirtan. That's the joy, right, of kirtan. One who is sleeping, not in this lecture. One who is sleeping may see many objects of sense gratification in a dream, but such pleasurable things are merely creations of the mind and are thus ultimately useless. Similarly, let me repeat again. One who is sleeping may see many objects of sense gratification in a dream, but such pleasures are ultimately just the creations of mind and thus are ultimately useless. Similarly, the living entity who is asleep to his spiritual identity also sees many objects also sees many sense objects, but these innumerable objects of temporary gratification are creations of Lord's illusory potency and have no permanent existence. One who meditates upon them, impelled by senses, uselessly engages his intelligence. Intelligence. So, purport, because the fruits of material work are temporary, it ultimately does not matter whether or not one obtains them. The final result is same. Materialistic activities can never award the highest perfection of life or Krishna consciousness. The material intelligence impelled by senses strongly desires sense gratification. As stated here, bhedatmadhihi. Such intelligence actually separates one from one's real self-interest. Very interesting word, bhedatmadhihi. Dhi means intelligence, and bheda atma means separating oneself from atma. Thus, the intelligence absorbed in that which is materially favorable and unfavorable becomes divided in the pursuit of innumerable categories of material advancement. Such divided intelligence is impotent and cannot understand the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. The devotees of the Lord, however, have their intelligence fixed on one point, Lord Krishna. They meditate upon Lord's forms, qualities, pastimes and devotees, and thus their intelligence is never separated from the absolute truth. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekeha kuru nandana bahushakhahi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. If one is not Krishna conscious, he is uselessly dreaming without any understanding of his eternal situation. The material intelligence will always devise novel means of achieving happiness, and therefore one bounces from one fruitless program of sense gratification to another, ignoring the simple fact that all material things are temporary and will disappear. It's interesting how Prabhupada comes with these lines, right? Uselessly bouncing from one fruitless program to another. In this way, one's intelligence becomes infected with material lust and greed, and such infected intelligence cannot bring one to the true goal of life. One should hear from a bona fide spiritual master whose intelligence is pure, then one will come to Krishna consciousness, the highest perfection of life. So this is how we see. Now this discussion is coming again in the 11th canto. It's about Bhedatmadhihi, right? So no matter who we are, no matter what we are, no matter whether you are a new person to this process of spirituality or you are very seasoned since 15, 20, 30, 40 years or maybe a couple of lifetimes, kabhi possibility is there. The very fact that you are in this body means fundamentally there is a Bhedatmadhihi. That my consciousness has attracted this body, that means I am still not aligned to Atma. So it is the prime duty to understand that. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the beginning, we will continue 10 more minutes, okay, no? Host. So the host is telling something else, and so he is telling whatever she says is okay. Correct. So in the Bhagavatam, second canto, an interesting verse comes, which has fascinated me last couple of months. And it just amazes me that I read it so many times, but it never struck me. So that verse is one of the very famous verse. Akamaha sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purushah param. So what is the simple understanding which we understand? Yeah, Tivrena Bhakti. So basically, for those who are new to this verse, Akama means a person who has no material desires left. He does not even have the desire to go to Golok. Not even desiring ki I want to be with Krishna. He is like, wherever I am under the protection of the Lord, it's okay. So we can say people like Prahlad or Bali Maharaj who are also serving in the lower planetary systems, but they are fully satisfied that there is nothing you can give them. When Swamin Kritarthosmi Varam na yache, Prahlad Maharaj tells Narsinghdev, I don't want anything. Now somebody who does not want anything, how can you reward such people? It's a very complex thing. You cannot reward them. And no matter what you give, it is insufficient because they want nothing. So that is akama. It's a very high level category. There is nothing to analyze in that for us. Moksha kama is someone who has some sense of the futility of this material world and he is tired and saying, okay, let us at least get moksha. That because I am tormented by this material existence, we all, even though we are not philosophers, we all say like this at some point of time. Hare Krishna, take me away. If you are there, just take me away. आपके बारे में सुना है, I have never followed, but if you are there, it's time to prove your existence. Take me away. That is moksha kam. I want moksha, liberation, somehow or the other. So moksha kam is a very definitive thing. The 18th chapter, I think text number 54 or 64, that Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na shochati na kangshati. So moksha is that stage. Na shochati na kangshati. No hankering, no lamentation. Now I am done. I understand what the material world is and I have tried all the varieties of fruitless engagement according to this verse. And I have jumped from one branch to other and tasted so many fruits. But nothing is really so much worthy of the efforts I put and the suffering I go through just for the kind of pleasures which I am getting. So then a person goes to the stage of moksha kama. And then there is the third category, sarva kama. What is sarva kama? All the possible varieties of material desires you could aspire for. So whether somebody is akama, moksha kama, or sarva kama, all these three categories are recommended. See, in a way, Bhagavatam is so compassionate that it is accommodating all classes of people here. Sarva kam means most of us, or all of us. Moksha kama are very, very rare. Those are called mumukshus, who are really hungry for only one thing. They are desperate for one thing. The green card to moksha. That is their desperation. ऐसा नहीं कि भगवान चाहिए लेकिन ये भी चाहिए. That is called moksha kam. They are called mumukshus. But then Bhagavatam is also putting one more category. There are people who don't want either. That is akama. So everybody comes. There is no fourth category which is possible. All these categories are recommended one thing. What is that? Tīvra Bhakti. Now I want some of you to answer. What is Tīvra Bhakti? Good. One-pointed surrender. Anything else? Deep yearning. Okay. There can be multiple right answers. Sincere desire to serve the Lord. Yes. Yeah, what is intense devotion? That's the question. You just translated it in. See, this is problem of education. No, I'm just joking. Yes, sees Krishna in everything and everybody. That's quite an exercise, right? Understanding Krishna is the cause of all causes, yes. All these answers are enough for Krishna to come. Ki, "Arey, this candidate has understood." Keep doing Krishna consciousness, God consciousness, whatever. So there can be many definitions with this whole concept of Tīvra. What is Tīvra Bhakti for a person who is Sarvakami? Because that is not explained, right? So now all of you, if I just say that you have to do Tīvra Bhakti, so everybody has their own definition. Correct? Sarvakami, someone whose heart is loaded with material desire, which never ends, one after other. And if there is another candidate next to him who is a Mokshakami, and then somebody says, do Tīvra Bhakti. If the Mokshakami does his Tīvra Bhakti, this fellow will go in depression. Ki, I cannot do, because his definition of Tīvra is totally different. Right? What is Tīvra for Mokshakami? It's going to be really tough. The bar is very high. And for Sarvakami, like many of your friends, every Monday they'll go to Shiva temple, bathe him with, or Hanuman temple, bathe him with ghee, oil or milk. There are many who do this very religiously. And every Friday, very religiously, they have a party and they open wine. Both things are going. I met one such person. So his family members think कि थोड़ा आप इनको समझाओ, थोड़ा बहुत ज़्यादा भक्ति करते हैं. So I said, so this request came to a very wrong person. He said he should take care of family and all of that. I said, did he do? What did he do? No, every Monday he does this thing. He never misses a Monday. So I said, but weekend what he does? The party ये सब है, but Monday he goes. So that was a big worry. Somebody going ritualistically 15 minutes on every Monday, that became a matter of worry. The full-fledged costly spirits and wines, क्या नाम देते यहाँ के लोग, spirits. That is not a matter of worry at all. That where he is going to go by doing all these things. And then also it means there is everything. There is meat, there is liquor, and all that party. Everything is there. But that is perceived as Tīvra Bhakti. My point is that is considered intense. So he also is, we met and he also is feeling that, yeah, I want to now understand something more deeper. Read the Bhagavad Gita. So, but there is no sight of wanting to give up other things. But yeah, but it's Tīvra Bhakti. And from my perspective also, it's a very significant change that now he no longer wants to follow the rituals. He wants to understand the science of God. So it's a very great thing. And he's also feeling that actually now I'm doing something intense. I'm on a very big mission. Yes. chanting first time, one round, didn't all of you feel, now I'm doing something special? We all felt like that. Those of you who were regularly drinking liquor, when you decided that I will drink now only once in a week or once a month, that was a very significant change. The friends would have started criticizing, Bhai, tu sambhal ke rahe. You are walking on a very dangerous path. तुम्हारे लक्षण को ठीक नहीं लग रहा है. You are just a normal person. ऐसा है, normal रहो और भक्ति करो, क्या problem है, थोड़ा normal रहो. This is what people say. So then we started doing probably 2 rounds. Then suddenly some of us would have thought that now I will not eat meat. We all felt that sense, right? That we were doing something really great. Means not that in a sense of false ego, but the sense of achievement which comes when you fight your own weakness and do something meaningful. When you add worth to your own self, you feel that greatness within you. That does not have to be certified by somebody else. So those were the days when people would not glorify us or talk to us very respectfully, but we were just happy doing our spiritual activities. Then it became normal. 4 rounds also, it was like, ऐसे हो जाएगा. After a few years, it is 16 rounds, तो ऐसे ही हो जाता है, ऐसे चलते फिरते हो जाता है, गाड़ी चलाते चलाते. By advancement of technology, you no longer have to hold the bead bag. 10 years ago came the counter which you had to press. Now you have a finger counter. So it's an invisible thing. So advancement of technology is a technologically advanced rounds. So those kind of things. So 16 rounds to ho jata hai. That's not a big deal. Huh?
Even you don't have to hold the steering wheel nowadays.
Yeah, you can chant. So you do not have to put extra effort for even opening a scripture. You can just speak to your car, open Bhagavatam, so she will start speaking. Anything is possible. Despite all of that, many times we don't feel the sense of growth. We felt so much sense of growth in 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, 4 round. Now there is the growth disappeared. You know why? Because the Tīvrata has been lost. Basically this verse says, even if you are a sarvakami, whatever you are, what is your Tīvrata must be done. What is your Tīvrata? What is Tīvra for you must be done. So giving up some bad habit was like a say. So that time you didn't need a guru or some Prabhu or Mataji or some senior saying that you are doing good and no need of appreciation, because you are appreciated by your own efforts. When we are dependent on somebody else's appreciation, you should know that you have lost Tīvrata, and that's the beginning of our fall. That's always true. If you are driven that you get self-appreciation by your own Tīvrata, you are on safe roads. You will progress, you will experience great joys in life. And such people only can do kalyan of others. Otherwise, an old fellow, 70-year-old person coming here helplessly without any money and struggling for his life, and he created the whole landscape. Started the whole Bhakti movement, Prabhupada. With no encouragement and no appreciation. But that's not true. Because he was getting that encouragement and appreciation by his own Tīvrata, which was nourishing him. He was drowning in his own nourishment. And that is only when, that is the stage that you can actually do something genuinely for others. Because you are also experiencing the joy. That is why this verse is so beautiful. A sarvakami is also recommended for Tīvrata. Instead of Krishna or the acharyas going into detail of what is Tīvrata and getting into definition, which I just tried to do an exercise, it makes no sense. You know what is Tīvra for you. Find where is your weakness and hit it. Target that. Don't target hypothetical ritualistic targets that, okay, now it is this. It's Kartik month, I will do this, I will do that. Okay, that you can do, some kind of fasting or something, but if you are doing fasting, fast something which hits you, which is part of your weakness. Because that's where your Tivrata is. Yeah, just one second. So let's say I was just talking to someone. There are many people who did Bhishma Panchak, which has just happened few days ago. 5 days of extreme fasting. So I told, for you the Bhishma Panchak is learning to adjust with your family members. Now that's a very difficult target for that person. For him, Bhishma Panchak, he can do so many things which can attract the wow factor from all the devotees. Oh my God, you can do this, you can do this. But I cannot tolerate this person. So I told, Bhishma Panchak for you is here. Not that you don't do the rituals, but understand where your Tivrata is. It's not in the achievement of the superficial aspects of religiosity also. It's targeting our core weaknesses. Little bit, bit by bit. That is for Sarvakami. Mokshakami, who does not desire anything in this material world. Now you tell what is his Tivrata. Very difficult to define. Where is his Tivrata? Yes. Yes, very good. Very good. Is it in humbleness? See, there is no answer for this. Nobody has spoken this thing. These are my thoughts and we all can contribute. There must be Tivrata for Mokshakami, right? Because all three are told about Tivrata. This is very good. Humbleness. Just seeing that, okay, now I am not concerned with anything material. All these people are useless. Yeah, and having that pride about that. That's a very good thing. Keeping yourself humble by your own achievements of spirituality. Also, doing your duties despite not having any obligations to do so. Krishna tells to Arjuna, I have no duties to perform, still I do my duties. I have no obligations, no karmic obligations to perform, still I do. This is a sense of somebody who is a mokshakami. Still just do for the sake. Or when we talk about preaching or serving, if we do it without the sense of false prestige and wanting all glory for, that could be something called Tivrata for mokshakami. Because it's easy to do when you have a motivation for that. But when you have no motivation for these things, why to still do? Do. Most complicated, then I'll take your question. What is Tivrata for akama person? That is most mind-boggling. Mokshakami still has Tivrata. You tell, okay, you are doing pranayam this much, do for these many hours. Okay, sleep only 2 hours. Don't sleep at all, just do chanting. So he has something to do. Akama. Yeah, for somebody who is akama, he just thinks that how will I please the Lord? Now, I have nothing to satisfy myself. It's all okay. Let me give pleasure to the Lord. Now that means a person even at the stage of akama may not have tivrata. Correct? If he would naturally have tivrata, this verse would not mention akami because they are already tivra. This is a very important aspect. Don't think that your desires are lost means you are okay. This we do experience. When our material desires go away, and if the tivrata goes away after that, you will fall back to the same material desires again because you are not experiencing higher. You will fall back. You see what the problem is? Yeah, even if you have no other desire, let's say, but then if you are not getting the higher experience or a joy, then we will feel to stay desireless is also so much emptiness, na? Then that's why people after some time they say, "Abhi maja to nahi aa raha, but फिर भी थोड़ा तो करते हैं." Maybe let me revisit. Shayad in this Javani, young time, some people just came, book distribution kiya and it got me to temple and मैंने ये सब किया. But now I'm mature, 45. I should go and visit my old friends. Those thoughts do come. So many cases we have seen. We keep praying that when we see that, we also feel that, oh my God, mind can trick anybody at any stage. So the thing is that the Tivrata is there at all stages. And somebody who is Sarvakami, he will never appreciate the Tivrata to please Krishna. If you put that target on him, he'll say, Bhai, अरे आत्मा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, कहाँ कृष्णा आ गया? और प्रेम, I am not able to love my own created creations. Matlab, I loved someone, I made that person part of my life. I cannot love that person anymore, and how I'll suddenly love Krishna? Correct? These are practical things which we all experience. So that's a challenge. Tivrata is there for everybody. So everybody, and unless we reach that stage, we'll not understand, oh, that Tivrata is there. Everybody feels bored. Brahmacharis also feel bored. Sannyasis feel bored. Grihasthas will feel bored. Somebody who is not in any of those stages, just young boy, he feels that these all people are crazy, why they are bored. But the thing is, as long as Tivrata is there, we enjoy. So Tivrata can be defined something called as acceleration. So there is velocity and acceleration. Like when you are in a plane, which is flying in the sky 35,000 feet at 1,000 kilometers per hour or 800 miles per hour, you feel bored after some time. क्या कर रहे बस बैठे? You are not just sitting, you are traveling at 1,000 kilometers per hour. क्या करना है? 20-hour flight, just sit. But when it is just taking off or when it is landing, we feel excited, right? Which is just 120 kilometers per hour. It's only 120 kilometers, whatever that is in miles, 70 miles. At 70 miles, the plane automatically takes off. You don't need to put extra effort. That's the technology of the wings and all of that. It just lifts. And it gives a sense of achievement. Now I am going, I am flying. I am going to visit my parents, my friends, my relatives, my country, which is not going to be my country anymore. But it's my country. Like that. You have that feeling going and coming. But in between at a very high speed, but no joy. Because there is no acceleration. So no matter what speed you are traveling, remember, keep your life accelerated and find the point of your acceleration. That is Tivrata, basically. When you feel that I am feeling boredom, means whatever speed you are in, 16 rounds, 64 rounds, those things will not produce Tivrata. The Tivrata is always, the acceleration is always blocked by our own weaknesses. The velocities is decided by the paramparas and the mantras and acharyas that this is the process. It will go fast, this mark, that mark, all those things. Highways are constructed to drive at full speed. But that acceleration is our weakness. Work on that. And that is what is called Yajeta Purusha Param. With that acceleration, contribute, think that I am trying to progress. Why? Because I want to please the Supreme Lord. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Yes, your question.
The question is that I believe that God is within me, but I also look for acceptance and validation. So how do we live with this coexistence?
Validation from whom?
From my friends, from my family, whoever matters to me.
About your faith in God? Or just about your existence, your life? So whenever, actually last 2 days we were talking about these things. See, it may not be ideally possible to 100% live a life where we don't seek any kind of validation. And as long as we are not clear with the Atma Tattva, not just in theoretical knowledge, but also in terms of maturity and experience, it is important for us to also get some part of validation from our seniors, parents, or somebody who is wise and mature, so that we just don't go astray and do something weird. So not that somebody else validating is wrong, sense of dependency. But whom are you seeking validation from is very important. So let's say my friends and family members. So what kind of validation you seek from them? Let's say if it is matters of running the house, then we can take some guidance on maybe from our parents that how to raise these children, how did you do when I was small and all. Then we take those kind of things and then they say, okay, you are doing good or bad, whatever. So that's good validation entry. But in matters which is beyond their understanding, if we are going to seek validation that way, then the reference point of our growth is wrong. Let's say that you want to understand whether you are doing sadhana well or not, or how much to get involved, or means to what degree to get involved nicely so that the spiritual life or desires or the experience of God matures. So that is not something probably they would know. If they know, then it is fine, then you get validated. Otherwise, eventually we will we will weaken our own minds to that stage that we will find self-worth in somebody else's validation.
Their opinions start to matter more than your own.
Yeah. And then the template of their realities takes over the template of your own thing. And then here there is another problem. Krishna is trying to put his template. So it becomes a khichdi of so many things. And I was telling yesterday, if we have to risk our lives by working on somebody else's template anyways, because I don't have faith in my architectural, the template which I am operating, then might as well, why don't you take the risk to work in Krishna's template? If I anyways have to take risk in working in somebody else's template, to take risk, because we have no guarantee that somebody else's template is definitely going to work. Let's say I am not even saying that Krishna's template will work, but I think it's a worthy risk to be put. Because how many people have authenticated the templates of whomever we are depending? At least in Krishna's case, he has many people who have given good reviews. 5-star reviews. So many of them. So it is worth taking, even in an objective sense, following that template. One's self-worth, I think in earlier discussions I have said this. Being in life, we cannot outrightly cut off situations, but at least understand that out of, let's say, 100%, 51% of your growth, of your own validation and self-worth, and of the worth has to be coming from the self, not less than 51. Even if you want to put somebody else, then he or she has to be in 49. So if my 51 is not there, I will naturally put some other elements there. And that will become precarious condition. So at least wo hona chahiye. That is the only struggle we have to do, not the ritualistic struggle, going Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. All these things are possible. You can do ritualistic. I am not denying the value of those rituals, but the true is this. We need to validate ourselves. Now validation, beautifully, Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? Pratyaksha avagamam dharmyam. Which verse, which chapter? 9th. Rajavidya Rajguhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyaksha Avagamam Dharmyam. That dharma, the process of following duty, is susukha, means very sukha, but susukha. It's very joyful. But this joy, this sense of joyfulness is not because Krishna is saying that this is like this. He says Pratyaksha. This has to be validated by personal experience. That you have experienced. Not because so many have said. I think last year or a year before that, some devotees took me to a nearby ice cream shop. They said, "Bahut acha ice cream hai." I'm looking forward this time also. So we went. We had twice. First I went because they were saying, "Chalo, chalo." I thought, let us encourage. Let's go. जाने के बाद बहुत अच्छा था. So that information got validated by my experience then. So dharma is something like that. When it gets validated by your experience, then you will It will become sukha. Otherwise, because somebody else is feeling the joy, it will never become your sukha. I never followed it but everybody is saying so, it must be true. So you will not get an exciting thing. Like I went for the first time for that ice cream. So it was sukh to the ears. Acha, chalo. But when it became my experience, I shared it in Bhagavatam class today. Correct? Because it has gone beyond that somebody else's words, it's now my experience. So pratyaksha, truth is validated by personal experience. Not by Prabhupada said or Krishna said and this Acharya said, Bhagavatam speaks, whatever they speak. We have to put that effort to validate it by our experience. We do yajna, right? You must have done any time ahuti. So when you are putting ahuti in the yajna, the true sense of ahuti is basically putting your own weakness and desires. So when you are doing yajna, next time remember, मुझे इस चीज का आहुति करना है. This thing, you will see the truth will get validated in your heart. Krishna speaks another beautiful verse. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mama upayanti te. For someone who tries to reach to me, I give him the intelligence. Nashayami atma bhavasto jnana deepena bhasata. In his heart I reveal. So that means you cannot just even get revelations by reading things. Ahuti to kuch na padega. What are you going to put? Ritualistic grains? They will help somehow. But it has to go beyond that. If you want to come to the stage that you are not living in the burden of somebody else's validation. Again coming to the point of what we began with, Dandamis, Dandi Swami, he had no, Alexander was carrying a historian so that he will be validated by the world thousands of years later that he was the conqueror of the world. And this fellow had no desire like that. You see? That is what humbled Alexander, that this person needs no self-worth. He has so much high self-worth that he does not need me coming and saying that the great conqueror of the world has come. He was attracted by his self-worth. When he said, oh, you can, like even when Socrates said, you can kill me if you find me. When the prisoners came with him and told poison, you have to take poison. He said, you can kill me if you find me. That's something, right? So when you meet such kind of people or you hear such kind of stories, you feel that their self-worth is infinitely large. It makes us feel stupid, silly, idiots. Our entire conquest suddenly becomes like crumbles, like dry leaf powder. So someday, not because this is journey for spiritualists, someday it is also for grihasthas. Bhagavatam is written by a grihastha, Vyasdev. Every single character who is glorified in the Bhagavatam is a grihastha. So this is for grihastha only, not for renunciates. Of course it is for them, but it is also for grihasthas. So never think that someday some magic will happen. No, start that journey right itself. Start working on it. People around you will start feeling that you carry a different aura and energy. You may not be successful in achieving, but even when you start the struggle, that energy will be seen, even when you don't speak. And it will bring so much sense of contentment and peace that you will get addicted to it. Then you are not worried. So the proportion to which we are worried about what people will think, that much whatever spirituality or religious ideas I have that I am religious or spiritual, it's all a conception of mind. It's not real. To that proportion. So just work on that. Yes, Prabhu. Can you give me water? Very good question. In that aspect, how to differentiate between self-worth and arrogance. You all can hear, right? So, this is the problem which has come out these days. Let's say 50 years ago, there were not these two things like self-worth and arrogance. It was because these days, the level of intelligence is always just deha buddhi. It's not udara buddhi, which is a tīvra udara kamasarva udaradhi. It's not like that. It's deha buddhi. It's not atma buddhi. So as long as a person is not atma tattvavit, or his intelligence is not fixed on the soul. Now when we say fixed on the soul, means you think everything from a soul perspective. My karma, my duties, everything comes from a soul perspective. Whenever you are thinking on the level of soul, okay, this is very important for all of you who are new, and also those who are not new, obviously. But please try to understand. Many people think that when I am doing spirituality, then they put these two in two different brackets, material and spiritual. Material thing is a dimension. For example, when we talk about dimensions, let's say, when you talk about two dimensions, it talks about length and breadth, let's say. When you talk about three dimensions, you don't replace those two dimensions, you just add one more dimension. Right? What is that dimension? Height. So you have these two and just take it up, it becomes third dimension. So the third dimension obviously includes the second dimension. When you go to the fourth dimension, it's not a new construct altogether. It is just an extension of the third dimension. Fourth dimension includes second. Whenever you talk about soul and Atma, it includes the bodily dimensions by default. So do not consider that now I am putting more emphasis on soul, thoda bhi body pe karna padega. ऐसा नहीं होता है. The more you do about the soul, you are naturally taking care of the bodily dimensions. That is why scriptures repeatedly say the intelligence has to be transferred from the bodily level of functioning to the dimension of the soul. When you do that, the self-worth will naturally be that which is coming out of your spiritual growth. When the intelligence is at the material level, the self-worth is just a form of arrogance, which is very nicely defined by you. It's very nicely defined by you. So sadhaka should, yeah. So but at least you got this idea, right? So whenever you have a sense of self-worth which is loaded with material acquisition or appreciation for your material things, or let's say a false appreciation of your spirituality, which is by others, and I'm feeling, whatever it is they think good about me, then we should know that that is a form of arrogance. You may not express it, you may be modest to cover your arrogance, so it's possible. Humility and modesty are two different things. Humility is naturally you feel it, and modesty is when somebody says you are great, you say, no, it's not true, but it's fine. Means at least you are modest, that not taking it too seriously. But that time we don't feel, actually I'm lower than a worm in the stool. We don't feel that. So, like that. So, whether or not arrogance is expressed, we can understand wherever the intelligence gets flattered, and if it is anything to do with the body, it is a form of arrogance. This point which comes repeatedly, Atma Buddhi, is a very deep point. Just keeps flowing in every discussion. Interestingly, Prabhupada also, one time, when Radhashtami lectures, Prabhupada spoke 5 lectures on Radhashtami. Now, Radha Tattva, you all know. The moment Radhashtami comes, nobody speaks about Atma and other things, right? We all speak about high level love and prem. in all the 5 lectures of Radhashtami, Prabhupada, in the lecture, 90% of the lecture is all that you are not this body, you are the spirit soul. And then 2 places out of the 5 lectures, he said, but Krishna loves Radha so much and she controls him, so we also worship. He did not elaborate on the Radha Tattva much. Means I am trying to say, somebody who has promoted this whole movement of Krishna consciousness and Radha Krishna love and Bhakti and Prem, that person did not, that person elaborated more on the Atma Tattva. Unless this thing doesn't come in place, there is no point. You will not truly relish. That relishing will become a part of your ego, that you know some fancy stories. Then that will take a subtle form of arrogance and pride and deceit, and ultimately it will lead to that Tīvrata will get destroyed. So self-worth, again we can say that if the Tīvrata is maintained, self-worth will always be there. You don't have to think about self-worth. We don't have to think about these things. You just feel like that Dandi Swami who cared about no one. Or Prabhupada cared about no one. He went to the reporter, okay, they will embarrass me, but I will speak something about Krishna. Haridas Thakur, Nityanand, they least care about others. But they are composed. Any self-worth which is like an arrogant, if it is of the nature of arrogance and it gets damaged, the arrogance will come out. You cannot tolerate that because it was anyway superficial. Something which is rich, it has a different level of experience. So someday we all will go through some sense of torture in our own karmic cycle. Accept it gracefully and have the courage to pay the price. You will feel the sense of self-worth and joy. But that courage is required. Spirituality is only for courageous people. Otherwise, do religious things, no problem. Karte raho. Yes.
I was thinking about Tīvra. So there is, I was thinking that how do you balance, when you go to the stage. So if you are completely detached, then probably this Tīvra can go to any level. So you know that there is nothing that I am going to lose, or there is no limitation, anything. But when you are in a balanced life, right, in a maybe grihastha life.
So brahmacharya is not a balanced life. Or sannyasi is not balanced life.
Balance in that sense.
Yeah, I'm just joking.
Yeah, so in that case, when you talk about Tīvra, so how do you exactly, kind of balance that, within your life cycle?
Yeah, so Prabhuji, the question is, as grihasthas, how do we balance the concept of Tīvrata? That's why I removed this concept of Tīvrata from this point of maybe chanting more number of rounds or reading more and all. I am not touching that point at all. Being a grihastha with so many responsibilities, on a day-to-day basis, there are so many reasons where you could get dismayed, frustrated, upset, disappointed. Correct?
Yeah, but I was asking the other aspect. This is for sure. The other one is that if Tīvrata in one direction, in the spirituality itself, I'm not coming into our material life itself, in the spirituality in one, in being in the circle or the fence of spirituality, Tīvrata in one thing can, sometimes I have seen that it hampers other aspects as well. Just like if I am totally absorbed in my readings, this and that, then I am not giving the right attention to my kids to grow in their spirituality. So that is where I feel bad. That am I getting surface about my things. So I am being in the same zone. I am not even going into that. So how do you balance that? Because we are in a grihastha life where we have so many other things to also collect together to grow together in a spirituality. So that is where Tīvrata, how.
So again, I would say that slowly we have to shift the definition of material and spiritual making it separate as spirituality means material part, life is part of it. It's a dimension, right? As a 3 dimensions, which includes second dimension. So when we are doing in such a way that in a way it's just affecting, that means something has to be corrected. Let's say that I am absorbed in Shastra in a certain manner, which is affecting my other duties and responsibilities. And why am I more inclined to follow the Shastra and other things? Because my other responsibilities are not giving me the rasa which I am getting by doing these things. Correct? That's only why. Otherwise a person will not even do this. Now I want to derive more pleasure, therefore I am doing this. How to make our life meaningful and worthy, that even if I am not able to do much more to balance this, I should get that rasa. That's the point. If you are deriving that pleasure and meaning, you will try to balance it. Think this way. For our spiritual growth, there are so many different qualities which we need. One of them is absorption. It's not the only quality. For absorption to sustain, patience is required. For absorption to sustain, determination is required. So many things are required, right? Because one cannot be totally absorbed in that thing perpetually also. Unless one is 100% done with all karmic influence of current life and past lives. So considering that, we can use all these situations which come, which appear to us that it's frustrating, इसमें तो कोई रस है नहीं, just करना है. Think that I will use this opportunity to cultivate patience. Otherwise, when will we cultivate patience? Patience is never cultivated in joyful occasions. Patience is cultivated when I am not deriving so much joy, but I am patiently holding on. So most of the times we feel that is a time where we are not earning anything. कि कुछ हो नहीं रहा है. I think yesterday day before yesterday also saying impatience is the greatest sin. It will make us commit mistakes. It will make us lose the balance of life. Because we do not appreciate the quality of patience. Patience means what? Waiting. I remember one time when I was told to do service to Jagannath Swami Maharaj, so the seniors, they told, okay, are you willing to be the personal servant and do this thing? So I said, oh yeah, it was exciting. New service will be exciting. Guru, spiritual master, Swami, and so on. And then the other person with whom I was doing service, he told me, देखो, there is nothing much to do in this service. सबसे बड़ा काम इधर यही है, खड़े रहो. Because he may or may not take prasad at this time, some guest may come and you don't have anything to do. You don't have to run to temple, manage deities, this, that, worship, puja, prasad, guests, nothing. You have to just wait. He may come, take prasad, he may not take, whatever, just wait. And I felt, yeah, mast hai, koi problem nahi hai. And when I began, after a month or two, I was thinking, baap re. And so I was thinking, time waste hota hai. I could do something practical. I actually thought like that. Why? Because the material mind makes us feel like that. Waiting matlab kya? Something means either continuous flow of money should come, or I should be losing money, but something must happen. I cannot just be nothing. Right? And this is where all the problems, material desires, mistakes, everything creeps in there only. So patience is a very profound spiritual quality which has been exhibited by everyone. Krishna tells to the gopis, rejoice in my katha. I may not be there for you all the time. There are so many such stories. Dhairya. Patience means what? Let's say you come and you are saying, Krishna, you told us, okay, that I should cultivate patience. Okay, till which year? So it's 2022, I will go to Golok Vrindavan, but till which year you tell me? 3022? Or 10,020? Give me a figure, then I know. That means you don't have patience because you have already defined yourself. I have to just tolerate 22,000 years. Patience is it's a word which comes in the category of infinity. Patience. It could be tomorrow or it is infinite. But that character, to develop that character, to have that faith. See, a devotee must have this faith once you are sincerely trying to do with whatever limitations we all have. We must have this faith that I will be protected and nothing, even what I do, it may not be appear fruitful to me, but it will not be fruitless. That faith must be there. What Nectar of Devotion speaks. The sign of a devotee means Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. He will always protect. So, but yeah, some protection is not experienced. But this problem is not just for you all, it's for many of us also. It happens. I have felt many times, which I shared yesterday, that sometimes I feel it's enough now, not to waste time preaching, because anyways nobody follows us anything. They do what they want to do. Why should we burn so much to give a lecture? I feel like that. I have felt like that many times. Because probably we are measuring from that okay, somebody has done Bhakti Vriksha since so many years, they are doing Bhakti Vriksha program, and you see nobody is taking initiation. Nobody is chanting. तुरंत ऐसे आएगा ना, तो क्या है, कुछ मतलब नहीं. That means we already put a materialistic calculation that it has to work. So putting a calculation is one thing, but losing hope is totally different. So we cannot do that. So whenever such situations happen, I agree, that's the nature of life. It can give you an experience of futility. And it doesn't give the joy which a kirtan or satsang can give. But always remember, that thing will not go waste.
That one. Just like, the example that you have given day before, I think. Just a very simple example, which most of us do. That, even if we are in the work, we cut down and then do something else. Right? That is also a form of our...
even if we are in
the work, like you gave an example, right? The devotee is not working and then doing something. So that might be a wrong definition of your acceleration. So my whole question to you was, how do I validate my Tīvra, whatever acceleration I'm doing is in the right direction and the right motivation and then being validated by, my definition might be different from somebody else.
Yeah, so that's what I said. Once your basic duties are taken care of. Now these duties, Prabhupada, various places he says that the modes of nature for us, the living entity has acquired the modes of nature. The word always uses acquired modes of nature. Acquired means not that Krishna has given these modes. We have acquired land acquisition. We have acquired these modes. So these karmic obligations are precisely ours. Once the duties is done nicely. Now how much is nice? That is something which has to be measured. Doing nice duty means we don't have the mandate to actually deliver our children. But we have the mandate to at least give them a good sanskar. Itna to mandate hai. Give them good sanskar and then let them go. Letting them go is not giving them freedom, it is giving us freedom. It is relieving us of our attachments. Give them sanskar, a time will come, they will want to move on. That's that. Give sanskar to your family members also. Move on. If we develop a sense of control, and that is my sense of responsibility and duty, then that is a very big problem. So it's always a game of balance. There are no fixed rules, but you have to measure yourself that how much is a strong projection of my own false ego in my duties and something which is done by duty. Even if you do the nicest of the duties, you can fail. Gracefully accepting the failure is also a sense of Tīvrata. Kyuki, gracefully accepting the failure is not an easy thing.
So, my question is, if I repeat that, right, then, in 30, sometime, at least some point of time, I should go to my authority and then validate my Tīvra, right?
Yeah.
If I don't do that, just like you gave the example,
So,
I was relating to that.
Yeah.
Like, he was working, in working hours he was doing, the learning that you gave us that day is that, that may fall onto your spiritual life, and then your character, and then you may, you thinking that, oh, I'm just cheating there, but you may ultimately cheat here. Right. So Tīvra, but for him, he was thinking, oh, I am, maybe growing faster in my bhakti. I am putting all my effort into Krishna happy, and let the complete cheated. So for him, the definition is completely different. For me, maybe it's different.
No, so that was only because that person was enjoying कि ऐसा ही नौकरी मिलना चाहिए. That was the point I had mentioned. When you get addicted to get something which is not coming out of your effort, you feel a sense of entitlement which can destroy everything. That's the point. Some days can be, or some months can be there that the project is not so intense, so you don't have that pressure. It is okay. You are using it positively. That's not a problem. Being wise is not an issue. Being smart is not an issue. Being entitled is something. Now, as far as this aspect is concerned, understanding that there is also no perfect balance, so trying to do these things, that is also kind of a part of journey only, because see, no matter what you do, it's not going to be perfect. Krishna could not create that balance. Satyabhama had issues with other wives. ये सारा चीज उनको भी डील करना पड़ता था. Ram also could not fully balance. To take care of the emotions of father, he hurt how many emotions? Just to take care of one vow, of one obligation. He hurt Kaushalya, not like intentionally, but his decision. Bharat, Shatrughna, Sita, and so many others. Everybody said that this is a very crazy thing. So we also understand that, okay, at some time it's not that you fully dedicate yourself blindly to the duties, that it has to be put in perspective. When the duties need you, you are there. Nobody is going to disturb 1 hour of sadhana and chanting time, right? Make that intense, there is no problem. How many years of the day you have where maybe somebody is very sick and some emergency happened and you cannot do sadhana and arti is late, or you miss the arti, it is all okay. But how many such days happen? Very few. Rest of the days we have enough time to sit peacefully. Exploit that 1 hour with intensity. Other things will not even touch. You will not have this thought also coming whether this is necessary or not. Karo. Jitna hota hai karo. Nahi hota hai, don't pile it on your soul. So yes, and after that.
Sorry to be late, but can I just ask?
It's not late for me, but for all of you.
So slight variation to Prabhu's question, so please correct me. So as you mentioned, acceleration is a function of identifying one's weakness and acting on those. And so now this particular identification of one's weakness, to his point, can be based on our own kind of conditioned nature and intelligence. That may not always be favorable devotion, that may not lead to favorable devotional service.
It may not be right also.
It may not be right, and it may also not lead to yukta or vihara, so that balance state. So I think perhaps the question, even I had the same question, that how do we identify that our identification of weakness is in line with Guru Sadhu Shastra and also
exactly, that's the point. Guru Sadhu Shastra is the point. So see, there are some things in life cannot be resolved only by Shastra. Actually, everything can be resolved either by the Guru or the Sadhu or the Shastra. But in our journey, we cannot take solutions from one thing only. That's our limitation. So whenever we cannot extract something from Shastra, we immediately must go to the other two components. Kind of validate by a Guru or a Sadhu. If I cannot get something from the Guru, then I go to the Sadhu and the Shastra. If I cannot get something from the sadhu, sadhu means friend basically. A well-wishing spiritual friend is a sadhu. So then I go to Guru and Shastra. So it has to always be within that triangle. Actually, I was going to say that and I forgot when you second asked the question. But it has to fall in that triangle only. So now, how do we also get it from the Shastra and how do you also get it from the sadhu is also a big thing.
That was my question.
Identifying such people is a big task. But it is possible. When you have that sincere call in your heart, in my life I have seen, if you are sincerely wanting something, somehow or other Krishna provides. You are not even knowing where to take that solution from, but it comes and you know, okay, this is where it is. So those things have to be done. So it happens with all of us. Now I don't have any other option. Till the time I find Guru and Sadhu, I will at least walk on the path of Shastra. I'll make mistakes, it's possible, but I'll walk. But at the same time, in the Shastra also there are many people, characters, no? So I'll try to analyze and see, okay, what works. Go slow and steady. Once that is done, get validated from somebody who understands spirituality in applied manner. not just stories and not the clutter of knowledge. So वो व्यक्ति से पूछना चाहिए. Like that. Our questions and inquiries also have to be very sincere. So maybe it cannot be discussions which can be in public, but privately we must have some friend whom we know that he is wise and we can actually talk with him on some matters. कोई तो एक friend होना चाहिए. Friend, mentor, senior. He could be in the family, on top of the temple or anybody. So वो तो चाहिए. Yes.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Yeah.
As someone who struggles with like being hyper aware of my surroundings, but also being stuck in compulsive habits, sometimes I find myself in like an existential situation where I feel like, how did I get here? Or like, why am I doing this? But I can't seem to stop doing whatever it is that I'm doing wrong because I'm stuck in that compulsive loop. So I guess what is something I could say to myself during that time that will help me get out of that, break that loop at that moment?
Okay. I'll give you a method of how to get out of this instead of what word you can say and all of this. Because the modern sense of this, whenever this thing happens, put this on the mirror, write these 4 statements, just forget all of it.
Okay.
Specifically to your questions and if you are going through this. Can you spare 20 minutes a day for some activity?
Yeah.
Do pranayam without fail.
Okay.
You must do at least 15 Anulom Viloms. What is Anulom Vilom? Somebody should be,
Yeah.
So properly you learn that, how to do it.
Yeah.
It will take at least 15 minutes to just do 15 Anulom Vilom. That must be done. And do 5 minutes of Kapalbhati. Do 5 minutes of Bhastrika. Just these 3 pranayams. It will stabilize your mind because of hyper awareness. The awareness will become, even if it becomes more hyper, it will be in control. See, sages and great people are also hyper aware, and some people who have some sense of not so great spiritual, but they have whatever hyper awareness, they may be called as, there are some mental conditions also of hyper awareness. In either case, awareness, even the sages have hyper awareness. So hyper awareness is not a problem. The problem is to contain it. Pranayama is a very, very profound, serious habit, which probably all of us should cultivate. Then we don't need too much of counseling, too much of therapy, too much of talking to people. because internally things will work so nice. That will solve at least 80% of your problem or situation.
Thank you.
You will not need words specifically. It will just come. You'll have no questions left actually. By doing these three things. So do 200 Kapalbhati in at least 3 sets or 4 sets. Do 100 of Bhastrika and do 15 minutes of Anulom Vilom. So it will be 25 minutes. Then in a week's time or in a month's time you contact me. Then I'll try to help specifically more. Otherwise it will just go on and there is no end to that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay? Try it. Do you have 25 minutes every day? Can you spend? Yes. And it may, if you cannot follow that count, it may be less, but that should be your target. It eventually come there. I don't want you to hurt your back by doing that, because when you do intense pranayam, sometimes some things, it can hurt the back. So don't do, because you are young and you may do out of full enthusiasm with full speed. So go gradually.
Yeah.
So who knows her well? So be in touch with him. You can take my number from him. Whenever you need some help, we'll work on it. So we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
इसके जगन्नाथ प्रिया प्रभु जी की जय।